Indian media reported that Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the BRICS summit, gaining significant attention due to the absence of Chinese and Russian leaders. At India's request, the BRICS summit condemned the armed attacks in Kashmir but did not accuse Pakistan of being the mastermind, disappointing Indian media. In their view, Modi's Bharat Empire is a cornerstone of the BRICS organization. With Chinese and Russian leaders absent, shouldn't Modi have played the role of a commanding big brother? At the summit, Modi implied that China weaponized critical minerals, imposing export bans on rare earths and urea against India, presenting himself as a victim. I don't know how the Chinese representatives restrain themselves. If I were there, I would grab a baseball bat and beat this stray dog on the spot. When he threatened to deny Pakistan a single drop of water, ban Chinese apps, mocked Chinese people for their small eyes, and called for Indians to boycott Chinese goods, why didn't he consider other countries' feelings? Isn't India's current predicament, facing Chinese blockades and sanctions, a result of its own actions? The Bharat Cow Dung Empire always takes itself too seriously. Chinese Premier Li Qiang was present at the summit. If any major decisions were to be made, it wouldn't be Modi's turn to perform. BRICS was originally a cooperative organization for the Global South to counter Western developed nations and secure greater influence. Due to India's presence, it has fallen into a deadlock. India actively plays the role of America's watchdog within the organization, spying for the U.S. and undermining cooperation among southern nations. When China proposed that Global South countries issue a statement condemning the U.S. for promoting economic hegemony and using tariff barriers to disrupt global trade, India firmly refused. It would never bark at its master, even though the U.S. master never feeds it and beats it with a stick, imposing tariffs on India. When BRICS nations sought to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar, Trump issued threats. India immediately refused to cooperate. Modi wagged his tail before Trump, hoping for a reward. Yet Trump showed no mercy, continuing to threaten India with tariffs. When Israel openly attacked sovereign Iran, with the U.S. also involved in the bombing, BRICS nations condemned both the U.S. and Israel, as Iran is a BRICS member. However, India publicly refused to condemn Israel. Even when the China-led Shanghai Cooperation Organization collectively condemned Israel, India stated it did not participate in the discussion. BRICS and the SCO deeply regret the presence of such an infiltrator. However, we must recognize a fact. China's industrial output surpasses the combined total of Western industrial nations. China fundamentally needs no allies. If China were to compromise, it could negotiate directly with the U.S., conceding benefits. The U.S. is now a mafia boss, extorting not only civilians but also its own lackeys. China's willingness to speak for Global South nations and defend their interests is based on international justice. If southern nations are as selfish as India, China could abandon them and make peace with the U.S. Ceding benefits to the U.S. could secure a chance to share the pie. The Trump administration's stablecoin initiative is merely a new way to exploit southern nations and shift debt crises. China has plenty of ways to counter this and avoid being fleeced. Do other nations truly have China's strength? The U.S. behavior during the India-Pakistan air conflict shows that being America's watchdog doesn't grant exemptions. The U.S. imposes tariffs regardless, and when the watchdog is beaten, the U.S. won't even offer verbal support. Without China's leadership and support, the fate of Global South nations won't be better than India's. If Trump decides to target a country, it must kneel and surrender, begging for mercy. I suggest China and BRICS members make it clear and kick India out together. If there's no expulsion mechanism, create a new organization to replace BRICS. If Russia agrees, replace India with Indonesia to form a new BRICS. If Russia doesn't join, use a different name. China should also establish a new SCO, completely excluding India. China shouldn't persist with overly weak diplomacy. tolerating two-faced nations for the sake of international justice. If anyone thinks India is reliable and aligning with the US will yield greater benefits, let them follow India to beg from the US. China need not feel regret. China's diplomacy aims to grow the pie for a win-win cooperative approach. The US strategy is America first, collecting protection money. The choice is clear for each nation to decide independently. Since its founding, India's total foreign aid and investment are less than China's annual contributions. For such a boastful beggar empire, who would follow? China won't hold them back. China always offers equal respect to every nation in diplomatic settings. However, some nations reject this goodwill, thinking the Chinese are naive and unaware of their two-faced tricks, believing minor harms to China's interests won't face retaliation. This time, China must use India as an example, slapping it hard. Enforce rare earth export controls and technology lockouts to the end, showing the Bharat boastful empire whether it's as powerful as it claims. Let other nations learning India's duplicity see they must take a clear stance. The more Modi rants, accusing China of aiding Pakistan, the more China should increase aid. Not just Pakistan. China should massively support Bangladesh and other South Asian nations, building an anti-India alliance. Support separatist movements across India, and if necessary, deploy troops to dismember India directly. China is at a critical juncture with the US. Openly opposing India won't add much pressure. Conversely, if China harbors illusions about India and is betrayed at a crucial moment, the losses would be far greater. Look at Iran, which pursued deep cooperation with the US, signing numerous agreements and even leasing ports to India. Yet many Indians spied for the US, and the Indian government refused to even verbally condemn Israel. Therefore, China must clearly express disgust for India's stray dog behavior in every international forum, scolding it to stop bullying neighbors while holding a firm weapon, ready to strike when it bares its teeth.